let's go over the top three. And I know the video that I made on Sunday went over a few plays played out, but let me tell you why we are getting into the spicy area for the market. All right, so this blue line here, this 15.8 was a very crucial level to hold. So I gave you guys, when I made the video, we were down here. I told you guys if we flip this on the 4 hour, it was a flip. I was expecting us to go into the golden pocket to reject, to put another lower high, but this actually went to retest the SR point right here and then reject down. That's where the lower high was made. Now, if you guys missed that, remember the next area, if you guys watched the video, was turning this into resistance. Well, we lost it, turned it into resistance, and that was your short opportunity. Now, that 15.8K is a very, very crucial level to reclaim, because I'm going to start from scratch. Here is where the next liquidity pocket lies, and this one was already taken. All right, and this is where the demand zone still holds. And again, I'm going to be going over the same stuff I went over in my video, but it's still crucial to see it live. And this yellow box here, we don't want to close anywhere below 110K on the daily. If that happens, then this is all just, here is the previous range. Okay, range highs, range lows, similar to here, range highs, range lows. If we close back below, then this is just a deviation of the top here. And honestly, this looks more, I mean, it's too early to call tops. A top is, you know, a top looks like a top in hindsight, right? You can never call it at the time of. So if we are looking, here, let's do this. Here's the liquidity. Here was the previous range. Okay. Range, deviation, right? We reclaimed it, went up, broke out. Now, if I flip this, this looks the exact same, right? Here is the highs that we're going to break back below, and we are getting to that same exact thing. So sometimes it's best, if you can't get a hold of a trend, just invert your charts, and you're able to see things a little bit more differently than you could as if, it's going up, because a lot of people that are newer to the cycle, or this is their first cycle in general, are used to seeing price action going up, right? It's harder to see this. So if that's the case, just invert your chart and everything looks like it's going up, right? Like if this looks bearish currently, but it's inverted. Now, if this looks bullish, right, then you see things a little bit more clearly. Why this is important? Because and I think I have a chart here. Let me just bring it up. I'm going to give an example of tops that have happened in the past, and I think I covered it multiple times, but again, as a refresher, tops don't look like tops until it happens, right? So one thing that I've been able to notice from prior price action, from being in different cycles, is tops usually end with a rising wedge. Okay, it happened here as well before we had some type of dip. Okay, even here, and then now we're here. Well, every single time we've lost this trend line, and again, a trend line is valid on 3 touches. Every time we've lost the trend line, we have gone down. Now, we can talk about market structure, we can talk about things on different time frames, but this doesn't look good. And especially on different time frames, we have bearish engulfing candles. Here was a bearish engulfing candle that eventually sent it down. That was the last red candle. This one was the last red candle, sent it down. This one really didn't have one. And then you had this one where it eventually sent it down and eventually sent it down. And we are getting to a point where the trend line has been lost. Now, this is a 3-day chart. Through the 3-day just closed. We can, as long as this level here holds on the 3-day, especially, actually, I would like it to hold on the daily. But if we are able to stay above this blue line on the 3-day, we should have one more leg up. Otherwise, it's going to be a deviation, and we are looking for some type of short like that, similar to when we lost this, right? Similar to when we lost this and turned it into resistance and flipped to support. Once we get back under the range, we're looking something like that to happen on Bitcoin, to then trigger a short, and stop loss is to be determined. I still need more price action to develop, but let's say, it's going to be something like this, and then you're going to play the previous range, okay, because this is a deviation. And if you guys remember my range video, once we deviate back into a range, you're going to play the range, and then your targets for the range are going to be these blue lines here. Okay. So this would be a swing long or a swing hedge to protect you from your longs. And hopefully you guys were able to take some profit on the way up. We have some bids filling. I have some bids filling on my plays, but again, a reminder that this cycle is completely different from the last. It's going to be much tougher to trade. It's going to be much tougher to hold stuff. So there's a reason why I take profit on 10% moves, 15% moves, and just don't bag hold. This is no longer a swing market, in my opinion. It never was since the beginning of the year. It's more of a scalp type of market in trading. And ETH went from 3,700 to 4,700 in a matter of 2 weeks. So this pullback is warranted. Just not. I didn't expect us to go down this fast in 6 days. I was expecting chop. I was expecting the actual dip to begin in September, but we're starting early. But again, we're getting to an area that we need to hold. Okay, so this was our previous swing low into demand zone. This is the area that we need to hold. So depending on the reaction, if we can get a sweep of these swing lows, also known as a swing failure pattern, grab the liquidity, close back above, and this is a 4-hour chart, so you could get an entry on a 4-hour chart, and this would be your setup, right? But I personally would love to play the demand zone, so I would set bids at the top of the demand zone, smaller bids, and stop loss would be a daily closure. Make sure you guys are positioning appropriately. A daily closure below here, below this blue line. Let's make it red. That would be your invalidation point. I would go in with a small position, but I would not DCA in the zone. And the reason for that is because I don't want to DCA when something is just straight down. I'd rather DCA when we have liquidity like this that hasn't been touched. I'd rather DCA once the sweep happens and on the strength to the upside. Now this is going to be the second touch of this, so I expect it to hold unless something massively bearish comes out, but I expect this to hold on the first touch. And if you're dissecting trades from higher time frame to lower time frame, and let's say like we get the bounce, like for example here, right? This 4 hour, this once it reclaimed this area, it gave you a 1% move. This was, and I posted in my channel, it was a 1 hour trade, right? So it's going to be quick TPs. And usually when you're scalping, your first TP comes around 1 hour. At least that's what I like to do when I'm scalping. Yes, it's great if we obviously get more, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen, especially in a downtrend. So same thing applies if we get these bids here. This could fill instantly, and you get a nice, 1 or 2% bounce. Once that happens, just move your trade to risk free or break even if you are scared to go down. If you are able to hold and be underwater, then just hold until invalidation. But if we get a nice move, and again, 1 hour, 1 hour means this, by the way, guys. So this tool is basically, if you risk $100, you make $100 or you lose $100, right? So at 1R, that's where your first TP should be. Or, if you're like, hey, shit, I'm up, $500 on this trade, that $500 might mean a lot to you, but to the next person, it might not mean anything, right? Like they're looking for a little bit higher. So if you're happy with the 500, go ahead and take it. Okay, but this is what I expect to play out for ETH. Um, Otherwise, I'm honestly not interested in taking any longs down here. We have lost this level, so the only level that I'm looking at is the sweep or this demand zone here. If I'm going to buy strength, then I will buy once this 115.8k is reclaimed, and then we're going to target the mid-range level of this previous range. Okay, which would also be, another possible deviation to the upside. Okay, so I'm not interested in in Bitcoin right now. It's going to be a battle, and my bias was always bearish, mid-August through September. I have the receipts for that, so we'll see what happens. I was honestly expecting this one to take a little bit longer and just chop before we go down at the end of August, but it's happening too fast. So I would want to see this taken, and I don't want to see us consolidate here. I want to see this liquidity swept, and I want to see us reverse just like we did here. I don't want to see us come down here and consolidate for a little bit, because remember, in a downtrend, consolidation on support is bearish, right? So you want to see this happen fast, and then taking profit is going to be up to you guys. But once we have some development, then you can take profit levels of resistance. Your TPs could be tighter. You could, if you want, you could place your stop loss right below that demand zone a little bit, make your invalidation a little tighter. But in theory, that's what your trade should be. So let me post this, but before we do that, let's give a bearish thesis. So let's draw. I can't draw fibs yet because this might not be the low, but let's assume that this is the low. All right, so let's assume that we're taking the swing high to the swing low. We have an order block here. Lines up perfectly with this the golden pocket. This little dehydrated piss color. And entry would be around that order block. Stop loss probably around like 116.8. And take profits obviously at levels of support, but this would mean a potential another lower high into this region and then come back down. All right, trend is down. So in this example, or in this case, when you're playing against the trend, which is low time frame down, you want to focus on lower position size, or half of normal position sizing if you're going long, and your focus should be on shorts because that's the trend, right? So That is the only consideration of a short that I'm taking, or I would take if we go back here. And for those that don't know how I trade, when we have demand zones or order blocks, these are limit orders. When I'm looking for confirmations of sweeps, so if we have liquidity and we swept the liquidity, those are going to be confirmation orders. I'm waiting for the sweep to happen, close to happen, retest to happen, and then go above. Or like if there is resistance, right? Like this trade here, I was waiting for the flip to happen before going long. So order blocks and supply and demand zones are usually going to be limit orders on leverage. On spot, it's completely different. But when we're looking at confirmation plays, then I'm waiting for certain criteria to hit. Okay, so here's Bitcoin. I'll post it in the live stream chats. For those that are watching on YouTube, and for those that don't know, this will go on YouTube. You guys don't get access to these charts. Right, so I see a question. If it does sweep at the 11K zone and price starts to move up, do you still think things would be bearish in September, or do you think things could move forward and quicker with the current drops to these lows, so September might not be down? So everyone is thinking or under the impression that we're going to get rate cuts in September, right? Whether it's the case or not, I don't think that's going to have a major impact on the overall market. Even if we get rate cuts, it could, give us a bump, right? But I still think for the month of September, it's going to be an overall red month. Okay, and by overall red month, I'm not talking about Giga Nuke. I'm talking about if the overall market is down 1%, then we had a 1% move down in September. So we have to wait to see how that and that's going to be a very important FOMC. Okay, it's going to be very volatile. Right. So let's take a look at USDT dominance really quickly. And this stream, guys, is going to be till like 7:50 or my time, another hour from now exactly. Go play some basketball and take out some aggression on little kids. Okay, so USDT dominance. All right, USDT dominance looks like it's about to, well, it has broken out. And if we're in this 3-day chart, sorry, let's go to a daily. If we are looking at dominance here, my first main resistance doesn't come until 4.56. This was resistance here, so I expect us to go and retest that level, and then at that point, we will see what happens. All right. We had, if you guys were following me in chats yesterday, we had a bullish div here on dominance where the percentage was making lower lows here and RSI was making higher lows. Okay, and we pumped from that. This looks like it wants to go a little bit higher, but we are still in a downtrend. Okay, this hasn't broken into a bullish structure yet. This could be another lower high here, just like this was, because this put in a lower low. But if we break above this point, above 4.56, and close above, then we have broken structure, and my next level would be around this 4.7 to 4.85%. Okay, that's where I'd be looking to get into longs if we are able to get into that supply zone. That's hopefully where all my lower bits fill. All right. So if we do put in a lower high here, just like I thought that we were going to break out on this point, then this would be good. This would be a potential bottom, and then we go in for a third drive, and RSI would go down for a third drive. When we go down for that third drive, that's where you want to sell. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for on USDT dominance. And then Bitcoin dominance, per our last stream, per our last stream, right, this told you guys that this was putting in a bullish div as well, and it has, it's broken out on a lower time frame. So with dominance, with Bitcoin dominance bullish and Bitcoin price dropping, alts are going to get absolutely destroyed. That's exactly what's happening. All right. Now, someone pointed out on a lower time frame that we could see an inverse head and shoulders here. Don't remember who it was, but the measured move of this inverse head and shoulders on a lower time frame come around this resistance area, around 6.6%. Okay, so if dominance keeps going up here and Bitcoin keeps dropping, then alts would get another probably 5% move to the downside. Right. Now let's cover ETH really quickly. ETH is the most important chart of all. Okay. So let me show you why this is important. But I will draw. Okay. All right. So we saw back here mark the first highs before, we went a little bit lower. Okay. And then we came back again, rejected, went over, deviated here. Before we dropped down and then turned this back into resistance and then eventually died, right? Well, that same level was tested once, twice, thrice, and then I had to say thrice to sound cool. And then we had the breakout, right? Just like this. Now, if the same exact price action is going to happen, then you better fucking hope that we do not drop and retest and dump. Because on a higher time frame, our higher low remains here. Let's put this on a chart. Our higher low remains around 34.70ish. Okay, and I'm not taking the wicks. Okay, I am talking about line charts. That is where our low is. So we can come down, and if we come down to anywhere above 3,500ish, that is another higher low, and structure is still intact. Okay, over here, here is our higher high, low, high, low. We drop down below. I'm going to move this really quickly. Made a lower high, lower low, went up, rejected the previous higher low, and then turned it into resistance, then dumped. Okay, this point is our this point. Now this could change. If we bounce from here, right, then this is our current higher low. But if this continues going down, let's just assume it does, then our higher low remains above 3,500. So very important level, but as long as we are above 3,500, we are okay at the current price. Okay, but this is our first retest of the breakout on a higher time frame. So this is a very important level for us to hold, all the way down to where this 39.60 level is. This level needs to hold. We want to hold this level on the daily, and any closes below this, then honestly you're going to be targeting anywhere from 3,800 down to 3,500. Okay, so my 4,100 bids have been starting to fill, and I'm expecting this to hold, and hopefully it does, but ETH is getting violated. Okay, Now, I know on Twitter I said 38 to 3,500. Well, here is your 38 to 3,500 demand zone, and hopefully this holds. Okay, I'd personally be bidding here. As long as we are above 3,500, we are good. And I expect that final leg up. Okay, so this was more. There's no setups here. The setups would be, bid in this box with daily invalidation below. Let's change these box colors. Let's try purple for the day. A little Laker action. So bid this yellow box with invalidations below, close below, then this is where you want to add. Now I have spot bids from 4,100 down to 3,500. They're all shared in my channel. That's where I'd be bidding, and then close below 35 or this blue line here, then I'd be looking to cut, because at that point we have lost structure, and probably in the first trimester of the bear market. Okay, so for educational purposes, I'll put this in the team or in the stream chat. Now, what's surprising me is Sol. ETH has been getting passed around like a 15-year-old in prison. Meanwhile, Bitcoin also getting destroyed, but Sol actually has been holding up like a champ. All right. This was from the video. We took the fibs from this swing low to this swing high. We have an SR point around 165, where my final bids of Sol are going to come into play. But this is where Sol needs to hold, because again, lose this trend line, it'll be the third touch or so it hasn't been completely formed, but I'm just drawing projections here. If this area holds, where we have a daily order block, we have golden pocket, we have SR, and we have trend line, we have 4 confluences, this is where swing longs can be taken, and hopefully a short-term bottom for the market, and hopefully run it back to there. Now, notice how SFPs are very, very strong, right? We took out the highs there and then dumped. We took out the highs there, put in a double top, and then dumped. If you take a look at the ETH chart on the weekly, you will, the Bitcoin chart on the weekly, you will see the same exact liquidity sweeps that I'm talking about. So, sorry, I'm getting a call. When you see this on the reverse side, where you have a sweep to the downside and liquidity is swept, again, you shouldn't be scared to buy from there. All right. Now, see this pattern here? I'm just sharing an abundant amount of knowledge with you guys. Look at this. One sec. Looks pretty similar, right? Now we can break this down. Now this is the total 3 chart, so this is just altcoins. But notice how we swept the highs. Okay, a little double top. Here was a double top, not a clean one, right? But we swept the highs. Now I expect us to bounce. Here's an SR point. I expect us to get some type of relief from this order block. If we draw some fibs, right, we are approaching the golden pocket. So I expect us to have some type of relief here. Now, uptrend is still intact. as long as we don't close below this 933 billion mark, we are good. But again, keep in mind that tops usually end in some type of rising wedge or channel pattern. Okay. So I expect this area to hold for a brief bounce. If you guys are buying around these levels, right, when we get that brief bounce, that's where you want to take profit. Like I said, it's going to be a scalp market. Okay, now back to Sol. I'm going to post this. This is the total 3 altcoin chart. Okay, so back to Sol. The only like high time frame area that I'm interested in, which is my last area of DCA, is this 165. So this setup is still valid. I think it's also already posted in the live stream chat that didn't fill. But let me go to a lower time frame and we can break it down. Everywhere I take. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay. So downtrend still. Okay. It's a not a clean rising wedge, or sorry, falling wedge, because we don't have 3 touches. So I'm just projecting here, right? But if we get back up to that 185, not only is it going to be resistance, but it's also going to be on the trend line touch. So again, if you guys are buying at this level of support here, which has been holding for now, 185 is where you are going to want to sell. Now, if this is truly a double top, okay, the neckline for the double top is around 157. That's where it's confirmed. This on a lower time frame is in a downtrend. Structure was broken once we put in a lower high and a lower low there. So longs should be taken when we have broke on a lower time frame, okay, not in the higher time frame, so like anything 4 hour or 2 hour, once we break above market structure. So if this is our last lower low, okay, this is our last lower high, you're looking for something like this to trigger that long. Okay, now be careful because I expect a rejection there, but if we go above and put in a higher low there, then your setup would look something, again, I'm just projecting, would look something like this with stops below the previous lower low. Okay, this is a demand zone that's holding. So again, just like ETH, this would be a, and look, like Bitcoin is down $500 from when we started. ETH is probably still getting rammed, $50 from the highs, right? But Sol is staying constant. So Sol, what the fuck? Sol needs to, what the fucking chart was I using? Was it Maxi? Yeah. Sol needs to hold here, right? So low risk. I'm not taking this, but again, I'm giving setups for potential areas, right? This would be the potential setup to take, right? Stops below support and target, 1 hour trade for the first one. Okay. Otherwise, 185 would be an area where I'd be looking to short, and this is just in a simple range until we get there. Right now, I've seen this chart go around so many times. People are like, "Oh, well, this is starting to look like a little head and shoulders, right? I'm going to start shorting over here." You don't want to short at support. You want to short at resistance, and that resistance comes around 185. Okay, so this is the lower time frame charts. I'll post this as well. Okay. SUI, only because I'm going to be asked for it. If you guys watch my video on Sunday, here is a perfect example of higher time frame to lower time frame breakdown, right? Here was a bearish Quasimodo with, and I think I streamed there when we went over it first. Higher high into a low, high into a low, into a lower low, rejected from resistance, put in a lower high, and then the technical targets for this Quasimodo are going to be a new lower low. Well, where is that lower low? Around this golden pocket area from $3.12 down to $3. If we get into that order block, great. But I took fibs from the swing low to the high, and that is where the next lower low is going to be, which would be around some type of SR line, not a clean, actually it is an SR line, perfect an SR line there. So buying down 312 down to 303 and having a setup like this, stops below. Stops are tough on this one because it's so wide. You want to position yourself a little bit smaller on leverage, but this would be a perfect place to add spot. Okay, so entry DCA in the blue box, stop loss below the 786 fib, and then higher. Now, here let me put this, and then we'll go into a lower time frame. Now, here is an example of a head and shoulders that played perfectly, right? You have the neckline, you have left head right, right? Come down, go back up, reject the neckline, and that was your short to take. This was the setup that I shared in my video, and it was like something like that. So this gave you a little bit more than a 1.5 hour trade, but that is how you play a head and shoulders, right? You want to wait until the breakdown happens before you go into shorts. Otherwise, this could have easily bounced from here and then gone up. So once we got that confirmation, this is a confirmation play as well, right? We're talking about that flip into resistance because multiple touches of support. After the third one, it gets weaker, and there it goes, right? So that's where I'd be looking to look for longs. Now, let me get a perp chart going. On a lower time frame, if I am looking for longs, I don't like how we're just hovering here slowly on support. But I would go for another touch of the support with a very tight stop loss. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, and most likely it will. A lot of people see the support here, and they're going to bid it, but they're going to place their stop loss below here, okay, for a very tight stop loss. And what price could do is it'll come and probably get like a little bounce, then go and sweep that low, stop everyone out, grab some liquidity, and then go higher. Okay, and this is where we want our entries to not be where their stop loss is, but we want our DCA to be there. So you go in very light at entry because you're going to get a small bounce once this area is touched. You're going to place your stop loss, a hard stop loss, around 319-ish, below this. Previously support, right? And then we flipped it back into support. So stop loss below that. And you're going to wait to add if and only if these lows are swept. Because if it doesn't happen, then most likely this will just go to your stop loss and you want a small, a small stop loss. You don't, because you have a smaller position, so you don't lose as much. But you will only add if we sweep the lows to gain that liquidity and then go high. And then I do think if we go a little bit higher, from that point on, then the next major area of resistance is going to be this order block here. It's going to be a major supply zone. We broke down, we consolidated here in a range. So that would be around a 1.5R trade. Okay. So that's the only area where I'd be looking for long. The longer we consolidate here, the more I think a quick wick down here and grab all this and then go back up. So that's why I would go in with a smaller, I would definitely place bids at entry with a smaller position size. And then shorten that supply zone. Okay. I'm going through chat. I will look at coins for about 25 minutes. So I'm going in order, right? So give me a quick moment. Where is the start of the chat? Okay. Can you chart move, usual, and S, please? I can do 2 of those. So I gotta get through everything else. So let's take a look at the first 2. Move. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Alright. This looks like it wants to just roll over and go to 0. Downtrend. I would, you have a low risk. It touched the order block already. If you're looking for longs, this is your only area to do so. Outside of that, this is going to make all-time lows. Stop loss, I wouldn't place it below the wick. I'd probably place a hard stop loss below the candle bodies there. Even that's like 7%. And then hoping for a little double bottom. Right? Here's your range. And you're hoping for a bounce over here. Double bottom, little Adam and Eve pattern. That would be your range play. But this chart looks awful. And then obviously you short at the range highs. You have order block confluence. Assuming that this is the bottom, you also have fibs within that area as well. But these wicks are pretty nasty. What is that, like a 15% wick? Maybe short in the middle range, middle of the order block. Okay, the next coin is usual. I am not reading you guys' response to the charts. I'm just going down in order. Usual. Looks like the same. Alright, new rule. Everyone that is in here can only trade coins in the top 50. Look at that. There's your bounce there. Alright. Coins in the top 50 only from now on. You guys can't trade these shitcoins. Okay, this is the last. Again, very similar. This one actually looks much worse in terms of structure than the other one, but it's on support. What the fuck? Okay, it's on support there. You have your first area of supply here. Let's make this red. Let's also make this red. Actually, that's an order block, so let's make this blue. Okay, so honestly, longing here stops below if you're wanting to long, and then TP there for about like a 1 hour trade. But there's no other place to long. Nope, there's also no div. There's a 4 hour divergence. Price making lower lows, RSI higher lows. Whenever we've gotten to around 30%, we were heavily oversold. So a bounce here is likely, but don't expect a large move like what Sol just did, right? But this would be your setup. What is up with this fucking tool? One, two, three, four, five. Three's not long enough, but this would be, yeah, this would be an area where we bounce. So here you go. Usual. Okay. Let's see. XRP kind of held too. Why am I going through my watch list? XRP. No, XRP. XRP looks like shit. Important level for XRP is here. Can't lose that level. But it already put in a lower high like all the coins. But if this level is lost, then gulag. And I mean, it plunged through more than 50% of this order block. I don't like it. This looks awful. You take a cheeky long here. Stop loss placement probably below there. This is more of a short opportunity if we get it. This probably rejected perfectly from the golden pocket, huh? Yeah, it did. That's what I'd be looking at. XRPP. Have your TPs for Soul Spot changed at all? Yes. As soon as DCAs fill, TPs move as well. So I'm still waiting. Hopefully the bottom one fills, and with Soul it's a little bit harder to get 10%, but right now it's going to be at $200. So we'll see. Average entry is now 185. Ondo. Let's take a look. Ondo looks similar. Let me see the daily on Ondo. It's on support here. So like it's a little bit below support, but this is where you want Ondo to hold. It's a little bit of a wide order block, but again, lose 87 cents. This is OFTO. No more Ondo. So TP stop loss on this one, if you're taking on leverage, will be around 87. And targeting 96, 1 and 104. Now if I were to draw fibs, which now we can't because we have 786, sorry. Golden Pocket gave it a little bounce. 786 has not. Maybe do that. Around 90 point or 0.901. Shorts. Shorts would be around here. Into another lower high and then dump. Okay. So let me post this. You could take the entry here in DCA down to 0.901. Someone tag me. Yeah, the next coin after Ondo is AVAX. So AVAX is still in this range. Let's just draw that. We'll cup and handle. Cup, handle. block. So we are at the golden pocket. This is our first area. If we are to bounce, this would be the first area to bounce. It's just tricky because it has fallen under this point. So if we are to reject here, then this becomes resistance. So I'd probably start my bids a little bit lower, 786, actually front run at the order block top. And stop loss below the lows. And if we somehow get a move into this order block, that is where you're going to short. Obviously, things can change in a few days from now, but this assuming it's happened the next couple of days, not like in a week, right? Because a lot of data can come out that invalidates a lot of trades. But in the event that this area is lost, like here's your support, right? The next major level of consolidation comes to this demand zone. This would mean that ETH is around 3,700, 3,800. This would be the area where you want to buy some or go long, swing long. Okay, here's AVAX. Hype. Okay. Was it this chart? It was one of these charts. Okay, maybe it was this chart. Alright, so let's take a look at hype. So hype had a double top. And this is, again, another chart that, if you take a look, looks like a potential top forming. Okay. We have lost a lot of charts like we just showed you, whatever coin I just went over, or AVAX. We have our closing, we closed below an important SR level, right? So we got to see how this is going to react, because if we reject from here, this turns into resistance, and the next area of interest lies within this order block, which could also be just a quick wick like we've had, here we went below, quick wick, and then a little bit higher. Now, this would be the first, let's just call it 2 here, 3. This would be the 4th touch of this trend line. So it's getting weaker and weaker, and especially in an uptrend where trend, here is your last higher low. We put in a lower high. So if we go and close below 37 on a daily, this is bearish. Now, lower time frame has already been lost. Okay, high, low, high, we closed below, made a lower low, rejected from the previous lower high. So this is already lost. Structure's already been lost on the 4 hour, but on the daily, it's still holding as long as this order block holds. So something, back into there. TP1 would come around here, and then 2, and then 3. Shorts, because this is in a downtrend, I'd probably look for shorts, but this coin moves very weird. If we assume There is a bullish div. Price making lower lows, RSI making lower highs. So this could honestly, again, it's at resistance here, but it doesn't go and make, and it has a 3 drive. So if Bitcoin doesn't dump completely, this could probably go back to test the golden pocket, and that's where I'd be looking to short. Now, shorting this is always risky because of how volatile it is, but something like that. So 3 separate plays. For hype. Okay. I haven't heard of FET in such a long time. Okay, that's our range. AI coins are not the move. At least not yet. We haven't had a proper narrative shift to AI. But it is consolidating. And a little bull flag here. It is on a daily order block support. Actually got the bounce from it. Still in a downtrend. Another lower high there. But low time frame, this could be another higher low here. So if it does bounce, here is a potential scalp, which it's a very slow mover. Very slow mover. Definitely not a coin that I would long here, like personally. It's so slow, but this demand or this order block needs to hold stop loss below. If that is lost, then we go back to the range lows here. I did not put down. Previously resistance, flipped to support, bounced again. This would be the third touch if we go down there. Again, this is all under the assumption that ETH goes much lower. And there is your range low setup with your range highs. I would probably look to short this on the next pump. This would be another trend line touch. Something like that. Can't draw fibs. I can draw it on the bullish fibs, and again, this is on the golden pocket. So again, you have the confluence to look for longs here. Obviously, assuming that Bitcoin is going to hold, total getting a little bounce here, but lose this, then you're looking at the range low levels. FET. Is Arsh Indian? Nope, I am not Indian. Chart grass, please. I'm about to make you fucking go touch grass. I'm definitely gonna make you touch grass. What is this chart? how does one chart something like this? Okay. Your only hope is this low time frame descending channel, which is getting weaker and weaker by every single touch. I'd wait for the breakout and retest. And your play would look something like that upon breakout and retest. Otherwise, if this support doesn't hold, which you've had more touches on here than I'd like, this will eventually get tagged by how weak this chart looks. But there you go. If we were to draw fibs from, let's do it, I don't like that wick, let's do it from this high. Maybe a wick into the golden pocket, stop loss above the 786 fib, and then come back down. But low time frame, you have another potential lower high here, so wait for that breakout and retest. Grass. Dogecoin. Nice. One sec, what is ETH at? Alright, Dogecoin. Dogecoin has the same exact setup that Sui did. The head and shoulders, breakdown, retest, and then dump. Now you have a supply zone with the measured move away. So I'd probably look to short the supply zone. One sec, I don't like my supply zones. Short the supply zone. And this is still in a downtrend here, but it bounced from support, resistance, flip to support. Again, another coin that looks similar to AVAX and others. If we are able to reclaim and close the 4 hour above and reclaim the support, then you have a setup like that. Very, very tight stop loss. Lose that, then you're looking for the next level of support. A brief demand zone here, which most likely will hold. But I don't like I was gonna say I don't like the top of that. So start there. Stop loss there. And target there. Doge. bonk. Oops. So I think it was this stream last time where we were looking at bonk on a higher time frame, and I said I don't like how this looks. I can't tell if this is a bear flag or just. I think it was here. I'm not sure. I think it was a stream, or I definitely wouldn't talk about this in one of my videos recently, but I didn't like it, and we got a brief like 4% bounce, but I didn't like how that looked, and I still don't like the looks of this. I need that line, one sec. We have closed back below the previous range that we had here, where we had rejections, right? And we're closing back below. So you are looking for any move into here for another lower high. Could even go a little bit higher into this order block. But I think with the battle between pump, let's see, is there some type of div here? So price making lower lows. No, there's no divergence at all. Absolutely no divergence. If the 4-hour closes like this, high chance of this getting stopped out, but you know, it's very, very tight stops. So here is a scalp if the 4-hour closes with a bullish engulfing. Let me get rid of this. I look to short this order block with stops above. Actually, before I post that chart. So range lows is here. Your mid-range level probably comes here. So we have broken out, but we never flipped it. So that's your next level because we closed down below the previous range. So if we get this move up, that's where you're going to short. But we might not get that. We might just reject like this. And that would be a short opportunity with your stops above here if we don't get this one. And then longs would be look to take around here. Now if we draw some fibs, yeah, the 786, I took it from this swing low to this swing high. The 786 lines close to there. And stops very tight. You're looking for a lower low into a lower high sell. Bio. What is bio? So here is the accumulation. Here's the breakout. The retest went a little bit below, but it gave a pump. Still in an uptrend. Link when it did, what did this move? Link when it moved. I'm not sure what this coin is, but I don't like these daily wicks. Technically, uptrend is still intact unless this bottom is lost here. Let's go to a lower time frame. I think this gets rated. Okay, so you have a few options. These are, because this chart looks like a heroin addict's paradise with these needles. These wicks, you're looking for a swift sweep here for a confirmation play. Because that's the only area for it to hold. Otherwise, there's really no strong support until down here. So stop loss below the wick. And then if we get some type of scam pump, you're looking for these highs. These are very close to each other, so multiple of them can be taken out. This one I'm excluding because I don't know what happened there. But wait for these highs to be swept. Stop loss above the highs and just play the range. This candle that we just had in the last 2 hours is an indecision candle. Basically, this actually, when you have a move down like this is not an indecision. This is more of a reversal candle. But I don't know how this coin moves. If this was a high cap coin, then you could take a potential scalp with stops below that wick. If it's truly strong and reversing, that would be the setup. TP at 1R, and then move your stops to profit and let the rest run. Bio. Is Armenian? I am not. I am half Middle Eastern and Italian. Okay. Last coin, Pengu. Yeah, this is lost trend on the daily. So the demand zone did its job, gave however much of a pump that was. High into a low, high into a low, failed to make a higher high, made a lower high, broke below the previous higher low, made a lower low. This has broken market structure to the upside. Sorry, broken market structure down to the lower side. And it's hanging here on support. Longs only if and only if we get back above this first blue line here. That's where you could look to long, because then you have a market structure break on the 4 hour. So back above here, close above, longs stops below the I mean, it could form a different stop once it happens, but once you have that market structure break, stops could be here, but for now it would be here. It's on support here, so this isn't pumping like Sol is and other coins are, but it's on support, and you're gonna play support until broken. This is a higher risk play. This probably gets stopped out. Stop loss below this wick. Target there. It's about a 4-hour trade. Shorts. The only short that I see that's safe is if we break down, turn that into resistance, because if we, I mean, the place that I do want to short, and it's not going to be here because this is close to support. The major resistance that we have is around here, but if we close above this, then we have a market structure break, and I mean, yes, it's most likely going to reject to come back down for a higher low, but it's a riskier trade to take. So the only short that I'm comfortable taking in this current price action is close below the previous support, turn to resistance, or if we get this move up here. And that's the only comfortable short that I'm okay with taking. And if I were to draw fibs, assuming that this is our low, then it falls perfectly in line with that. But you have a little, yeah, I mean, this is a very low risk area to take a quick long. Again, chances of getting stopped out are high, but you know, it's on support, so. Tengu. Are we still in an uptrend overall? Yes. Fucking A. One sec. Let me grab a clean Bitcoin chart. So, daily, we are about to break structure if we close below 110K. Okay. Weekly, and this is what I was trying to say before I went to other coins, is if you take a look at whenever there has been, and I covered this in my video, whenever there's been a weekly SFP, we've dumped, right? Here's one, here's the other. Okay, that's a little bit higher, but on average, once we close the weekly as an SFP, 52, this was the start of the bear market. 31. If we say 30, and watch my Bitcoin video because I go more into detail about, or sorry, my video on Sunday. 30 would be around 89%, which is the retest of the deviation point, which is likely. But before we go down there, there are levels that we have to hit. And the weekly market structure isn't broken until this level around 101K is lost. If that is lost, then we have lost weekly market structure. We are still in an uptrend overall. So, yes, we are still in an uptrend. Out of all your years trading, what's the single most important lesson you've learned and find valuable? If you had to keep just one, and why? Risk management, discipline, rules, and skills. No question. So, as time goes by, your goal is to try to keep your losses small and overall, grow your account by compounding. The number one reason why people, make profit and lose it all is because of greed. So, over time, I found myself, yes, I was, a leverage slut back in the day, but I'm able to keep my profits by taking less trades. So, as time goes on, especially this cycle with how difficult it's been, the amount of trades I've taken has reduced significantly from, say, this time last year or this time last cycle, and that has helped me to be profitable, but also not being influenced by, accounts on Twitter, false gurus like Brian, and just stuff like that, right? Being able to understand charts when people call them, because you may not agree with something that I put out. You may not agree with something that Neil or anyone here that puts out, right? Or you might put out a completely different take, and you go on Twitter or whatever, and you see something that is against your bias, and then that makes you second guess. So the number one thing that I recommend to everyone is being able to understand why something or why someone calls something. And you might not agree, and if you don't agree, right, like, you don't take it. If you ever have doubts about any single trade, doesn't mean you don't have to take it. You just go in with a smaller position size. Okay, that shouldn't scare you from taking a trade. If you are ever unsure, just lower your risk. But the higher quality setups that you take, right, eventually will, hopefully will, ease the amounts of trades that you take. Everyone wants to be in trade, every single day. Some people can't trade on the weekday, so they trade on the weekends. And my number one rule is, I don't trade on the weekends. Spot positions obviously different. You can hold it, but leverage positions, you don't want to open up trades on the weekends. Everyone was bullish on, Friday and Saturday, only for Sunday to get absolutely wrecked and go much lower than we were. So weekends, Sundays and Mondays, in my opinion, are the worst days to trade. So that, but then also sticking to a certain, I know you said one, but sticking to a certain, like, list of rules that you have, right? Like, for example, for me, don't trade on the weekends. If I get stopped out, more than twice in a day, I just stop trading for the day in general. Go back and take a look at my trading journal, take a look at the trades. Why did I get into it? Why did I get stopped out? It's a lot more easier to see stuff in hindsight, obviously, but backtesting it is very helpful. For spot, right? Like, I have a rule of no more than 5 positions at once. Never enter, never, use that spare 20% USDT that I have on anything else. Keep that for just emergencies, or you might see, something come up, a pre-sale or whatever, and you have some spare funds to get into it. But if you are able to just, laminate or write down these rules and put it on your phone, screensaver, above your computer, that's what I have. I also got a journal that I have the rules as my cover page, and just stick to it. And you don't have to add to it. It's your rules should be your most made mistakes, right? So if you're going to keep adding to it, then you're obviously doing something wrong consistently. These should be things that keep you, grounded. Um, but risk management is huge, discipline is huge, but the biggest of all is patience and waiting for trades to come to you and not always want to be in a trade and be greedy. You're Sicilian though? Yeah, but who goes and says, I'm Sicilian? Sicilians don't like to be said they're Italians, but half of the world, at least in America, because Americans are stupid and that's where I'm from, don't even know where fucking Sicily is. Current average on fart is 107. Where should my next TCA be? 83. This is my personal chart. 83 cents is the next level of support. Outside that is 73. Lose 83, it's over. Brian just told me to full port during this bull market. Brian is like when shit like this happens, and I'm not in Kaizen obviously, but when shit like this happens, he probably goes AWOL for about 3 weeks. I'll answer that question later, Mountain. Not for the stream. You have a rule like how much percent spot and how much leverage trades. So this is covered in session 2. I'll put it here for you. It's in the session 2 notes as well. So if let's say you have, $1,000 or $10,000, let's just use $10,000 for sake of, simplicity here. 10% of that should be in futures. 20% of that should be left on the side and you don't use it all. And then your breakdown should be 30 to 40% of what you have remainder be stuck in large caps, 10 to 20% in mid caps, 5% in small caps, and then you have your shit coins with the remainder of 2 to 5%. Now, the 2 to 5% is not per position. These are not per positions. These are total allocations in this basket of market cap. Is this being recorded? Yes. All right, so let me stop recording here.